Hey, good afternoon, evening, or morning. Sometimes our options aren't necessarily in the standardized order that we expect them to be, which is also why I'm doing this broadcast. I started out with it being Glue Wednesday because Wednesday is the middle part of a traditional 7-day week. It keeps the week end and the week beginning together. So Wednesday is the glue, which puts us right in a prayerful mode of saying G-L-U-E. God's love undoes everything. Not that it tears it apart, but that whatever's torn apart will be brought back together. So if this is your first time with us, that's the genesis of the glue. It was from Glue Wednesday. So here we are on Glue Friday, and that's why I say good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, because it's afternoon when we're taping it, but you may not watch it till the evening, or you may watch it on in the morning with your coffee or tea and crumpets. That's the joy. It's a joy. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we have choices. Let's not forget that. Sometimes that's what clogs our minds and our going forward is that we forget that we have choices. So let's keep making sure that we take advantage of the options that we have and then focus on what we have versus what we don't have. Now, we've got, less than 4 minutes before we start today's actual message. But, I always believe that we have to have streams of consciousness. And a lot of times we'll say to ourselves, oh, I got off the topic. No, the truth is, again, my truth, is that you're never off the topic. And see, I know I'm never off the topic. What happens is having 100% focus on something is kind of pretty impossible. It's possible, but the length of time that you can have that focus varies. And it's hard. Depends on what it is, okay? Of course, actually, obviously, we want a doctor to have complete focus when we're on the operating table. But what I'm saying there is sometimes, especially in the speaking business, so when you're the student, the speaker, the parent, the teacher, as you're talking, you're sparking memories. And see, that's the beauty for me as a speaker. My job is not to make you listen to what I say, but to give you an opportunity to go somewhere else with what you've heard. Ooh, that was good. I'm going to have to write that one down. But that's what it's about. See, when I facilitate my groups, one thing, when I used to go in and speak to kids in schools, and we've got less than 2 minutes before we start today's message, I go in and I tell the teacher, just chill out, relax. I always tell the kids, look, if you don't want to pay attention, lay your head down on the chair, on the table, and go to sleep. I said, the only thing I ask is that you don't snore, because snoring will ignore me. will bother me, okay? But that's my point, is that everybody doesn't pay attention in the same way. And you have to realize that sometimes you're doing so well that you've taken somebody somewhere else. So, like when I hear people, hey, put that cell phone away and pay attention to what he's saying. Oh, they've said to me, well, that was disrespectful. They were on their cell phones while you were talking. I say, no. See, if I saw them on their cell phone while I was talking, I know that they were posting or tweeting, yo, this guy is knocking it out of the park. You should have been here. He just said this. That reminded me. See, come on. See, it's about us, y'all. How you feel about yourself is going to impact how you see other people, and you decide how they feel about you. That's not possible. So unless they tell you, and even when they tell you, we got less than a minute, even when they tell you, they're telling you in the moment. I feel about you this way right now because of what's going on. And so that's the key, so I don't mind. I used to tell kids, I said, look, I know you're not going to pay full attention. Just let your mind go away. If we have a good joke, go away. But I taught them this, and they used to love it. I said, but, I'll let us laugh and have that moment. But when I say, come on back, that's what I want you to do, is come on back. And they loved it. So we would somebody would crack a joke, and everybody laughed at it. And then I said, okay, come on back. And then they start saying, come on back, come on back. Oh, man. So, and I'm saying that as a speaker, but I want you to do that in your life. Do your job. Deliver your message and recognize that part of your message is sending someone to their message. because they need the different analogies, the different ways we hear things give us the opportunity to say, oh, now I get it. Why do you think, if everybody was just, could just learn one way, there'd only be one school, one college, you wouldn't have to have all these different levels of education, and you wouldn't have to go to class more than once. They wouldn't have to offer the class every semester. Why? Because everybody's learning at a different pace, and everybody's learning based on who they are. What's up, Deb? Okay, yeah, I will have to listen later. Okay, I appreciate you. Okay, you be good, and remember that you're, even my friend Deb just said she can't listen to the live, and I got one of my twins, my twin Bambi, Vanessa, man, and she better be on here on the live, but she said, oh, I won't be able to listen. I said, no, look, first of all, don't worry about not listening live. It's taped. This is here, and that's also why you got to be careful about what you say, because somebody's going to remember what you said. Now me, if I'm putting it on tape, I got to be really careful, because somebody can prove, oh, Sporty, this is what you said. Don't we see that in politics all the time, where somebody brings up a video of an interview of something that someone said in the past, say, yeah, this is what you said, now you're saying this. Hey, fair game, fair game. Okay, but let's go on today. We're continuing our GAS series, and the GAS series is GAS, Glue Alphabet Series. This was an idea, and we're coming to the end of the alphabet, but this is an idea that I got from one of my younger brothers, Paulie, who said, hey, Sport, why don't you, make each topic focus on a letter of the alphabet, which was perfect because, the reason I started Glue Friday and Glue Monday out of Glue, I was just doing the once a week or Glue Wednesday, but then when the pandemic hit, I said, okay, I'm going to, doing my part, I'm going to pick up the pace on me getting a positive message out there and keeping people together. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I was having to come up with a different message 3 times a week versus once. In fact, I heard my pastor wife, Holly Furtick, say that one of the advantages she has over her husband, Stephen Furtick, is that he has to create a sermon every week. He's got 6 days, whereas she may speak every month or so. She's got 3 weeks. And she was just complimenting him. That, hey, what's up, Roger Carroll? Uncle Sporty here. What's up, Aunt Roger Carroll? So because I was having to prepare a message every other day, it didn't water my message down. But again, what a great idea for him to say to me, why don't you focus on a different letter each message? That helped me, that put me on a path. And ladies and gentlemen, all of us put one another on a path. That's why my overwhelming belief about us all being a small, medium, or large piece of every puzzle in our family, social, or business relationships. No matter what puzzle piece size you see yourself as, the puzzle is incomplete without you. So though I was the large piece of the puzzle in my message, Paulie was either the medium or the small piece. It didn't matter which one he decided he was. But once he gave me the suggestion, I said, great, I'll use it. So you may think that you're not a big piece of the puzzle, but you're much bigger than you usually think you are. So today, as we focus on the letter U, and what I do every week, every message is say, put a word that begins with the letter of the next letter that we're going to focus on in the thread, and I'll weave that into the message. Well, Wednesday our letter was STT, and so since U was the word for today, only one person sent me a word with the letter U, so I had to come up with my own, but that's all right. That's not a problem. But still, Monday's letter is going to be V. Even though it's Memorial Day, I'm still going to have a Glue Monday. So if you want a letter with the word V, you put that in the thread. So the word that I got on my U suggestions was unforeseen. Unforeseen. And I'm going to use that, share it, because my message today is, hey, ugly. Hey, ugly. And my featured poem will be, don't you realize that you don't know me? What I decided to do is actually I'm going to actually read a book to you today. I'm going to read my book, but I'm just I'm going to read it and synopsize it in some ways, because what I'm going to do is, Hey Ugly, How to Be Ugly was the name of a speech, the title of a speech that I wrote for Toastmasters back in 1995 when I went to the World Championship of Public Speaking. That was the speech that took me to the championship, and it has now become what I call my signature keynote or icebreaker speech, because I can use it at the beginning or at the end of any type of conference or anything, and it brings in the key points about being important, because ugly is U.G.L.Y, unique, gifted, lovable you. So what I did is I actually created a little workbook for it, and that's something that I'm going to be in the process of putting it on my site, so it can be a downloadable PDF that you can purchase. So I'm going to get about doing that today, because, boom, it came to my mind today. No shame in my game. I'll let you know when it happens, okay? Hey, what's up, Lamont? All right. See it. And I got a little second computer now. I can see when people come on. So anyway, I'm going to be reading and synopsizing from the book so that you can see how you would use it. But let me get back to telling you what it's about, because the speech is called, and that the speech is in there as well. It's called How to Be Ugly, Unique, Gifted, Lovable You. And it reminds us that each of us at some time in our lives has felt ugly. And that's one of the lines in the speech I wrote that inspires today's message, sponsored by my t-shirt. Every t-shirt, every message is sponsored by, I got a t-shirt that begins with the letter or the message of the day. And so it's the letter U, so ugly. Hey, and so that's my sponsored t-shirt, but it's also helps you remember one of my sponsors, which I mentioned on Tuesday, is heyugly.org. But this t-shirt is actually my official first non-book product from when I did the when I did the speech. And notice how it speaks to you in greeting you. See, it says, "Hey, ugly." So in other words, hey, unique, gifted, lovable you. And so when I used to talk to the kids about that, especially when I taught at Ella Flagg Vault. Okay, when I talked at Ella Flagg Young Elementary School in Chicago, the kids loved it, and they love walking around the whole time, and they say, "Hey, ugly." And I taught them that when someone said, "Hey, ugly" to you, first of all, you decide that it's a compliment, because it's, "Hey, unique, gifted, lovable you." And then I taught them to respond by saying, "Thank you, and I'm smart too." SMART, simply marvelous and right on time. See, so it's, remember, control your vocabulary. Don't allow your vocabulary to control you. And it's all about how we take over that stuff. But again, you can find out more about the organization by going to they have a Facebook page, heyugly.org, as well as the website, where you can see different ways that you could be supporting teenage suicide, lifting up their self-esteem, helping them deal with bullying, helping them deal with stuff like that. So it's a great resource, and I love it. But let's get back to the message, okay? See, because being physically ugly is a part of life, but it goes much deeper than that. And now I'm reading from the book, and then I'll just be putting some commercials in there. Have you ever judged a book by its cover, or felt like you've been judged? That's what we do when we're prejudiced based on someone's race or sex, or when we laugh at their clothes, the way they talk, where they live. Have you ever felt like someone has justified their actions that left you out? Or have you done that to someone else? That's what you're doing when you act like you don't care about someone and you hurt their feelings. Sometimes it can be something seemingly as small as not letting them play basketball, jump rope, or not inviting them to attend a function or a Zoom meeting. One way to avoid that is to turn every negative possible into a positive. And one of the keys to being heard is in being willing to listen. Most people do what I call listening for the period. In other words, they have already decided what they're going to say about how they don't agree with you, and they're only waiting to hear that your sentence is over. Hey, Lewis, they only wait to hear that you say, I'm done, and now, boom, they jump in to disagree with you. How many times have you said, "Well, that's what I said. That's what I was saying"? It's because they were so busy listening for the period to know that you were finished, they didn't hear what you said. And a lot of times when we want to get our point across, we're coming across with our analogy. And we have to come around the corner of, well, this is how this happened to get to the point. And see, since they've never been around that corner, because they came to get to that point from this way, they're so busy thinking, oh, I don't agree with this, that they're not hearing how you got around the corner to come to it. And so that's why they're doing what I call listening for the period. So you've got to make sure you don't listen for the period. It's important to open your mind to fully consider what another person is saying. After you hear their period, then you pause, digest their words, and then you answer based on what you understood them to have said. So, so are you saying this? That's called, then you would paraphrase what they're saying, or you can parrot them. Are you saying this? And you say the exact words that they said. Paraphrasing or parroting. Paraphrasing, putting it in your words to say that you understand it. Parroting, repeating their words to show that you heard what they said. And then they can say, yes, that is what I'm saying. So try that. In fact, if you want a good example of seeing how it doesn't work, watch any of the TV talk shows. Notice how few people actually get to finish what they're saying. When you see one of those TV talk shows, somebody starts to say, well, I was thinking of that. Well, I don't care what you're thinking. And you'll see it on like the Judge Judy and Judge Mathis type shows where the judge has to say, look, shut up. Okay? But yeah, that's where you'll see how people are listening for the period. They're not actively listening. They're not listening to what the other person is saying. And I'm nice enough to say, look at the TV shows, but you can look in your households, and you can look in your jobs, and among your friends, and you can see it. How many people are not listening to what someone's actually saying? I call it listening to the paragraph, not the sentence. Allow people to finish what they're saying before you judge the content of what they're saying. Because so often we don't want to hear. When listening to the paragraph means listen to the whole idea. Think about it. If you know a little bit about literacy, hey, what's up, Nihal? A paragraph is usually three sentences is a good paragraph. Sometimes just two, but 3 or 4 sentences. And so those sentences all need one another. So listen to the paragraph, not the sentence. That's how you can become a better listener. Now, sometimes we learn from understanding what not to do. So that's why I say sometimes we need to look at those soap operas and TV shows and listen to to what somebody else is doing. I'm not going to do that. So sometimes we learn by seeing what not to do. But when we give someone the respect of listening to what they have to say, there's a better chance of having that respect returned. Respect is an important part of self-esteem. Because isn't that the other thing, that how to be ugly, hey ugly, it's about self-esteem. It's about turning your self-esteem around and making it positive. But being respected is an important part of self-esteem. If you saw my contest speech from last week's Toastmaster competition, or showcase as I really like to call it, then you'll see that I talked about how important it is to be respected. If you haven't seen it, it's in this thread. So when we finish with this broadcast, just scroll on down and take a look at it. But the speech title was called The Greatest. And it's about how it's so much more important for me to be respected than it is to being popular. Okay? But, what are some things that you think you're good at? This is what the book asks you, and I'm going to give you an exercise in the book to figure that out. What are some things that you think you're good at? Not what other people say you're good at. What do you think you're good at? What are some things that you like about yourself? See, not what the so-and-so likes. What do you like about yourself? Working on our strengths requires that we feel good about ourselves, and that's just not a good idea. It's necessary. It's pretty hard to feel good every moment of every day in our lives. 365, 24/7, it's pretty hard to do. But I say, can I feel good more than bad? Can I feel up more than down? Can I feel positive more than negative? Can I go forward more than backwards? And when I go backwards, can I reframe it and say, I'm not going backwards, I'm stepping back and taking a look at my work? because I'm trying to make sure I stay positive and feed my spirit. So you'll find an exercise in the book that will allow you to list what you feel good about and how you feel about yourself. And what it says is that you're going to write one thing that you're good at and one thing that you like about yourself. And then you commit to adding your list, because there's actually going to be space for 21 days to change a habit, right? So add to your list at least once a day and never repeat any of the things that you've already written. So imagine you've got to come up 21 days of saying something that you're good at and something that you like about yourself. And you can't repeat it. So you got 21 things that you have to say about yourself. And here's going to be, in the book, you'll see the fill in the blank. And I'm going to want you to say the full sentence. My name is blank. I feel good about myself today. I'm good at blank. I like my blank. So that's the exercise in the book. And when you get the book, I want you to commit to that. Don't glaze over it. Just actually say that sentence to yourself. Don't have the book, don't want to get the book? Well, you can just listen to the tape again and hear how you finish that sentence. My name is blank. Still identify who you are. Don't start halfway through the exercise. Identify who you are. My name is Sporty King. I feel good about myself today. I'm good at speaking and I like my beliefs. Now, I don't get to say that tomorrow. So I have to say something else, and every day I'm going to build it up. What you're developing with this sentence is the practice also of being more comfortable with talking about yourself. How many times do you go to a networking event and people, I don't know what to say about myself? No, talking about yourself is an important thing to get comfortable with. It's a life skill that you need for getting ahead in school when you're younger. It's good for interviewing on a job, and it's just a necessary life skill. It's talking about yourself. As you become more comfortable with yourself, you'll realize that you're good enough. You're good enough to be loved. You're good enough to get outstanding grades. You're good enough to be praised for your accomplishments. You're good enough to enjoy your life. So don't take it for granted, but speak to your spirit. Ooh, speak to my heart, Holy Spirit. That's one of my favorite gospel songs. See how I went away and now let me come on back. Because that's what we do, is we take people away and we bring them back. But knowing what we're good at and what we like about ourselves is important. Understanding these qualities as gifts helps us see what we have to share and find other gifts to share. There's a page in the book to use to list what you think are your gifts and how you can share them. And on that page, they'll have a column that says, one of my gifts is blank 21 times. I share it by blank. See, so you've got, now you're going to, you can see that by the end of the book, you're going to be able to put it all together. My name is Sporty. I feel good about myself today. I'm good at this. I like my this. One of my gifts is this. I share it by. See, so as you start to say these things, because as you do it each day, you'll be putting that whole that paragraph together and building yourself up. It's so wonderful. That's why I just looked up, because just glory to God to think about it. But then ask yourself, why do people love you? That's one way that you can be good at filling out that list. Why do people love you? Is it because you are consistently respectful, get good grades, lend a helping hand, protect people, visit or always remember their special days of celebration? Write down the reasons that people consider, love you. And then you write it down, you just jot them down. Because see, sometimes we convince ourselves that we're lovable by thinking of people who love us and why. And it doesn't matter how many times you hear it, you've got to love yourself. It's nice to be loved and deserving to be loved by others. Yet you've got to love yourself. And when you do, you create the byproduct of that love. SELF, self-esteem. Self-esteem loves foundation. That's the byproduct of liking yourself and then loving yourself. And it's the byproduct because you have to like yourself so that you love yourself. Self-esteem is the base, it's the foundation of love. Self-esteem loves foundation. So like yourself more. See, if you don't love yourself and you aren't willing to say that you do, why should somebody else? See, so you have to love and like yourself and be willing to say it. And that's, again, what the book will help you do. Go through that exercise. Understand that we all go through times of feeling as if no one understands us. isolated, lonely, or left out. And it's during those rough times that we can't imagine anyone else ever feeling the way that we're feeling. We may wonder who we can talk to, not believing our parents would understand or our friends would listen or that it would even help if they did. In the process, we sometimes forget to love ourselves. We love ourselves most as we come to know ourselves better. Yet there are times where we feel attacked by someone else insisting that they know us. When we're younger, it's our parents and teachers comparing us to older siblings, older times, and to our friends. As we grow, some of our friends join in and start telling us where to go, what to wear, who to talk to, when to speak, how to live. Therefore, this first poem in the book is one where you may hear or see your parents, teachers, friends, and yourself, because yes, you've done it too to someone else. Yet what we want to scream to the world sometimes is, don't you realize that you don't know me? And this is a poem I wrote in 1970, and I actually dedicated it to my mother, because mothers do what, right? They go to PU, Parent University, and they specialize in saying, I know you. I raised you. I know you. I brought you into this world, and I can take you out, right, and make you another one like you. So I wrote this poem when I was 16. I wrote it to my mother. Now, I didn't tell her that I dedicated to her until I was like, what was I, 20-something? And on the phone, right, in another state. And she said, oh, that's nice. I said, okay, bye. So this is Don't You Realize You Don't Know Me? And think about who you can picture saying this to literally as you hear it. Don't you realize you don't know me? How many times have I heard, I knew you'd do that. It figures you'd say that. Please don't tell me you know me, because you only insult my intelligence. Don't you realize you don't know me? Have I so shallow a mind that you can pick me apart at will? Are my actions really predictable while looking through your drinking glass crystal ball? Is my voice really always monotone? Don't you realize you don't know me? Don't you realize that you only know what I let you know? And don't you realize that I could never let you know me, even if I wanted to? Because I don't really know myself. Don't you realize you don't know me? Don't you know that what you knew I do, I didn't know I do, even if I did what I did like you knew I do it? And don't you know that what you figured I'd say, I didn't figure I'd say, even if I said what I said like you figured I'd say it? Don't you realize you don't know me? Don't you realize that you don't know me? And in slow motion, don't you know? No. Don't you know that what you knew I do, I didn't know I do, even after I did what I did, like you knew I do it? And hasn't that ever happened? You know, oh, I knew you were going to knock that glass over. You're a jinx. Well, why didn't you move the glass? Right? I didn't know. And don't you know that what you figured I'd say, I didn't figure I'd say, even after I said what I said, like you figured I'd say it. Ever been in that situation where you said something, you just wanted to pull the words back like we're in the cartoons? Sporty, go clean up your room. I'm not cleaning up nothing. Just kidding, Mom. Right. Yeah, see, we've all been in that position or situation where we regretted something that we said. And we just wanted to pull those words back, but you can't. You've hurt somebody's feelings with something you've said. You haven't been able to pull it back. You've hurt your own self with things that you said. So it's so important to recognize that you have to understand yourself. And that's why in the book I go on to say, of course, the most important thing is not how well other people know you, but how well you know yourself. When is the last time you took a good look in the mirror at yourself? Not that that will tell you who you are, yet do you know your best smile, your best profile, how you look when you walk down the street? We sometimes take the importance of a smile for granted. Yet your smile means a lot to the people around you. How do you feel when a baby smiles at you? How special do you feel when someone smiles and says they're proud of you? How might you feel when your favorite hero stands in front of you and says they'd be happy to help you out? Could you imagine how you might scream if when they smiled, that hero, or any of those people had fangs like a vampire and their eyes turned a dark red? Check out your smile so that you can be sure you're sending the right signal. Sometimes we think we're sending the right signal, and we forget that everyone has a different communication style. When one person hears the word right, another hears right, W-R-I-T-E. When someone hears win, someone else hears about a loss. And that's when it's time again to turn a negative into a positive. You see, winning for me is personal. W-I-N, what I need. Each of us is a unique individual who becomes an important part of any team when we understand our personal win. What's a personal win for you? When the Chicago Bulls had a dynasty, a personal win for Dennis Rodman was not how many points he scored, but how many rebounds he got. For Michael Jordan, it wasn't the rebounds, it was the points. And then he upped his game to how many steals, how many assists, how many he stopped his opponent from scoring. As each member of the Bulls understood their personal win, now they put together a dynasty. And that's an opportunity that you have to do every day in your life with every team that you find you're on, whether it's a family team or a job team. But understand what your personal win is. And even when the Bulls lost, they saw it as an LOSS, a little obstacle to strengthen spirits. You see, we must all experience losses in our lives, but we cannot let a loss make us a loser. You won't come in first place every time. You may not get an A on every paper or test. A loved one may leave you. You don't have to be most likely to succeed or valedictorian in your class, number one in your industry, or even the best. To win, you have to be your best. And you saw me say that. I'll continue that belief in my speech, but that's what I've got in the book. To win, you have to be your best. And then remember that practice makes best, not perfect. Best, B-E-S-T, better, easier, smarter, and tougher. Don't allow peer pressure or competition to force you into uncomfortable situations to take away your opportunity to be your best. For the truth is that we only compete with ourselves to be better than we were last time. When we compete this way, we create more measurable and realistic goals. And that's what you'll find in the book. So I kind of read it to you, but I kind of talked through it, and which is what I would do at a seminar if I was conducting it based on using the book. Thank you. Good idea. That's what I'll do one of my webinars on. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, each of us gets the chance to be ugly as often as we choose. Unique, gifted, lovable you. And then share that beauty with others. And this is not a time to focus on what you don't have or what you can't do. This weekend, I want you to realize that you don't want to focus on what you can't do, what you planned for Memorial Weekend. How about laughing at how you said to someone else, yeah, when we make plans, God laughs. Now look at your plan in a different way. You see, some need to think about that drunk aunt. Now, you ain't going to say the drunk uncle. That drunk aunt who's not going to cause a whole bunch of confusion. Some need to think about the things in the house that won't get knocked over by a kid. Some need to think about the kid that won't hurt themselves. You know, how about remembering what you've done rather than what you can't do? Smile that you don't have to regret not having taken advantage of those opportunities when they were there. See, that's what you have to recognize. We've had a lot of options. Did you take advantage of the options while you were there? They say the people that want to jump in the casket the most are the ones that didn't spend enough time with the deceased. So, you know, and that's just what people say. You know how much quality time you spent with the person. But yeah, focus on, wait a minute, you know what? And this is something you can use in dealing with grieving. You know what, so-and-so was gone, but when he or she was here, we had an opportunity to do this, and we did it. You know, and that's what you say, wow, man, I'm glad we did that. Because can you imagine? See, we don't. It's not about learning to live without the person. It's now learning. It's not about being without the person. It's learning to live without the person. And so, therefore, we have to go on in our lives and, wow, so-and-so's not here. I miss them. Yeah, all of those. But now end that sentence with, but when they were here, this is what we did. Because that's really the reason you missed them in the first place. Man, I miss my mother because we always did this. She always said, man, I miss my spouse. Man, I miss my cousin, my friend. You know, because we always did this together. And now, you know what? I remember the first time that I had to say, use the words, because don't these words flow out of our mouths easily? Yeah, my mother used to always say. Yeah, my father used to always say. Even when they're alive, we say that. Yeah, my mother always said. But the first time I said that after my mother had died, I was speaking to a group of 300 Army, South Carolina Army National Guard, and we were talking about dealing with anger. And I said, you know what? I remember my mother used to always say, and I'm right up there in front of them, and I heard me say that. And I mean, it echoed, and I had to keep myself together and keep making the point with them. But man, what a jolt that gave to my system. Because now when I said my mother used to say, in other words, she'll never say it again. She'll never say it again. And that's what happens with us in the grieving process, is when we think about that thing that that person used to say or do that they'll never say again, we have to put the period on that. Just like the people we talked about listening for the period, we now have to put a period instead of a comma on it. But instead of us letting that get us down, here's what I want you to do with that period. Now cement that. Now that period said, you know what? This is what she said, this is what he said, and that's what they believe. Now you can say, wow. Because you know what? They'll never say it a different way. Because haven't you heard somebody say something one way and then they say it another way? Sometimes totally change what they were saying. But you know, sometimes they just said it a different way. So, I like the way you used to say it. You know, all of that. But now you can close that book. Say, well, you know what? This is what my mother used to say. And so therefore, that's who she was. And now I can celebrate that. And then I'll go on and cry if I have to. But that's my tears. Those are my tears. And no emotion is ever wrong. I'm always going to teach you and remind you of that. So that's what you can do, is remember what you've done rather than what you can't do, and smile that you don't have to regret not having taken advantage of a great opportunity when you had the option. This virus is it was unforeseen on your radar, but it was always in God's plan. How about appreciating that he has your piece of the puzzle still intact? How about continuing to pray for those who are losing loved ones to the virus? But check this out. And then realizing that we're still losing people to cancer, mental health, crime, and simple old age. And I'm not trying to end this with doom and gloom. I'm ending this with sincere thanks for you being in my life, which gives me the opportunity to be in someone else's. Because if you share my message that brings you up and brings you joy, it can bring up someone else and bring them joy. So you're giving me the opportunity to share in another life, and I'm giving you the opportunity to share in another life through me. Because as you encourage me, I feel encouraged, and I can encourage someone else. And y'all know it, even what we're doing with the gas series. I'm using your words. See, I'm not saying, look, this is about me, this is my broadcast, and this is my... No, I'm delivering my message. But when you give me words, you give me suggestions of how I want to bring that picture to life. And that's what we do, is we keep feeding into one another's spirit. So I'm ending this with thanks to you for being a part of my life. And depending on our age, our commitment to believing in God has never been more necessary or needed. I say depending on your age, because it depends on what you've gone through already. But we've never had to rely on our faith and on God in the way we have to today at my age. So that's why on Monday, I'll be shining the light on the letter V, but that V will be value, victory, and V-Lori. Now, V-Lori is one of my nieces. I call her my sister niece. All of my nieces, I have a different name for them. She's my sister niece because I grew up with her so close that she's like a younger sister to me rather than my niece. But she's one of my reasons for staying focused. See, you know how I also being an uncle is important to me. what are your reasons for staying focused? I don't have kids. We hear parents all the time say, well, I do this for my kids. You know what? They're your reason for being focused. They're your reason for working 2 or 3 jobs. They've been your reason for going through the sacrifice. That's beautiful. God bless you, parents. I love you. Well, V-Lori, my nieces and my nephews, she's one of my 33 reasons. I have 33 maternal nieces and nephews, and then I got a whole slew of nephews and nieces, and I love all of y'all too. From my volunteer work with the Boys and Girls Club, YTech, with the National Black MBA Association, just multitudes of places that I volunteered or worked and been with kids. Ella Flagg Young Memorial Elementary School. But being an uncle is important to me, taking it back to my letter U and carrying that U over and then adding another one of my reasons for staying focused is my youngest sister, Yeshiva. Usheevii. Yeshiva. Oh, I didn't even spell V-Lori. Viillorii. We got those double I's in our names. And that she's one of my reasons as my niece. And then my younger sister, Yeshiva, that's today's letter U, is another one of my reasons. Because she's the reason I enjoy being me and seeing her success. Remember the sentence? Who loves me and why? That's in the practice in the book. Who loves me and why? I know Yeshiva loves me, and here's why she loves me. And now that helps me see why I'm lovable. And so she becomes one of my 21 days. That's what you get a chance to do with the book, but that's what you get a chance to do every day in your life, is see how loved you are through someone else, and then you start to see it through your eyes, and then it will only magnify through theirs. So let's remember that we can end every moment by appreciating who we've become and how we've become that person. So put your V in the thread. And I said Roger Carroll, which is a unique name. That's my girl. That's from Chicago. She's getting ready to move to North Carolina. But she put a V in the thread already, a vault. Don't control your vocabulary. Don't let your vocabulary control you. When you hear vault, what do you think of? We can think of needing to jump over something, pole vault, to get over something instead of get through it with the glue. Or we can think of a place where you close it and people are trapped. You think of it as a safe place, but also you can think of people being trapped in a vault, because we see that in the movie. See, every word sparks a different memory or a different feeling for different people. And that's the beauty of being unique, gifted, lovable you. So put your B words in the thread for Friday, for Monday's message. Have a wonderful weekend. Feel free, to, if you like a copy of the poem, Don't You Realize You Don't Know Me, email me at unclesporty@gmail.com and I'll send you one. Later today, I will have it available, the book as a workbook or like a Kindle version. It's on Kindle, but I'd rather you get it from my site. And so I'm going to put it on my site because I thought of that this morning. Come on, think, this is a time. Hey, crisis is where money is made. So even though it's staying off the letter, but be careful about the scams right now. Slow yourself down. Slow down. You got a lot of stuff coming at you because it's a lot of uncharted territory. So, okay, good. We can get out of it by doing this? No. Wait a minute. What do you mean? Slow down. Please, those of you who are reopening businesses, especially small business, I know it's tough, not being out there, but we have to be smart. We still have to be smart. So there's a lot of things, listen to your messages, choose your messages carefully. My message is to stay home and stay safe as often as possible. When you go out, follow the rules. Put the mask on. There's some creative masks out there. We got a lot of stuff to do, y'all. But anyway, thanks again for tuning in to Glue Friday. Have a wonderful, safe Memorial weekend and celebrate being you. I'm going to continue the practice that we started actually earlier this, was it last week? I'm going to just stay on for another 10 minutes and shout outs or converse with anybody in the thread as a way of just thanking you once again for your support and blessing. God bless you. Glue, God's love, undoes everything. Ciao. Hey, all right. Thank you, Roger Carroll and Lewis. Man, Lewis, my homeboy from way back. And the thing is, we didn't grow up really knowing one another. but we still spiritually brothers because we grew up in the same place. And that's what sometimes people have to remember. The quality of the friendships that you can have as you grow is challenging, because a lot of times we really meet our friends, as the people who we grew up with. As we get older, we start to meet people who they call it networking. You hear people say, those are not my friends at work; those are my associates. So there's a lot of truth to that as well. So we really have to be careful of how we're working through these things and enjoying these wonderful friendships that we have. So thanks, Lewis, because when Lewis got back in touch with me and talked a little bit about who he was and what we shared, that was wonderful. Roger Carroll, met in Chicago, and just has been my sister, and our daughter is now, she's one of my grown-ups. See, she's one of my nieces. She's now down here in Charlotte. I know her from when she was, what was Simone, about 11 when I met her or something like that, and now Simone and I go out we have our little tradition of trying to get out for pizza together and laughing and talking. I met her husband, and you just get so many valuable friendships when you choose to be yourself. So that's why, again, that's today's message is, hey, unique, gifted, lovable you. And it's hi, and I'm smart too, simply marvelous and right on time. If you didn't, you got the tape. But no, I want to say it one more time. HeyUgly.org, please support that charity. I know one of my good friends, Vic, is going to end up on here early, and today is his birthday, and I know he's got a GoFundMe thing going for donating to American Heart Association. See, these are the things you want to concentrate and focus on. That's a beautiful organization as well. It's one, and it is one that I support. I have quite a few that I support, but remember, that's one of the things that the Bible says is don't worry about the people who are trying to be so publicly showing who they support, and recognize that, like Michael Jackson used to do a lot of undercover supporting of a lot of things that we found out when he died. And not that I'm saying that, people shouldn't put the GoFundMes and this and that, but I'm saying, it's really recognizing that you can be a donor and a supporter of anything, and you don't have to seek credit for it. You save lives. That's what you do. Put it on your resume. You save lives. Have you brought a child into this world? Have you raised a child? Have you volunteered your time or donated money to support a worthy cause? That means you've saved a life. And so that's what you could be doing, is just recognizing that what you do is you save lives. Put it on your resume and be proud, okay? All right. Well, we got about 5 minutes left. Okay, well, we got no questions in the thread. I guess I'll roll on, all right? But thank you all so much, and keep tuning in and keep being a blessing to all the people around by taking care of yourself. Once you take care of you, you get the PMS. Physically, mentally, and spiritually. You'll take care of the people next to you. What's up, Brian? Good to see you, man. God bless you. And Brian Keith McNeil, he does a lot of, check out his page. He does a lot of Facebook Live and different watch parties, him and his wife, Lisa Santiago McNeil, just blessings of people that I've met while I was here in Charlotte. All of us are trying to do something, and sometimes we don't necessarily get to support one another, so we drop in and drop out on other. So I just saw Brian drop in on me, and I know he's, he probably can't stay long because he's got to get back out to helping who he's here to help. God has sent each of us to help somebody. So be you so that you can help you and help who was assigned to you. All right? Okay, over and out. God bless you. I'm going to really click off this time. Ciao.